Yes, Elon Musk's sister runs her own erotic streaming platform, Netflix for bored housewives. Did you like 50 Shades of Grey but wish it was more vanilla? Well, I got the film for you. Huffington Post Books ranked Gabriel's Inferno the best teacher-student romance novel. And it started as a Twilight fan fiction, because of course it did.
Have you ever held a boy's hand? Then I'm glad I'm your first.
So you're here for Emerson. He's, difficult to work with.
And Miss Mitchell, see me in my office after class.
Do you want to do me a favor and remove the pole from your keister?
Find another supervisor or transfer departments or better yet, university.
Tell me why, after everything you've said to me, should I join you?
I'm a good lover. You need to let me feed you.
You'll catch pneumonia and die. Get in.
Have you ever been kissed?
Why didn't you tell him who you are?
It might not seem obvious to you, but I'm trying to be human here.
To look for you in hell. Well, that's exactly where I found you, and you can stay there.
Beatrice!
So why am I at all interested in an adaptation of a crappy romance novel? Passionflix is a passion project of one woman. She writes, produces, directs, she's the CEO, the president, edit, casting, she does it all. She's the Elon Musk of moist panties.
Well, I don't, it's a romance novel.
It's Tosca Musk, it's Elon's sister. The New York Times described it as the sexy Hallmark channel. What's next, erotic Food Network? Softcore HGTV? For only $6 a month, that's not a bad price for 40 hours of porn. He went into erecting rockets and making cars that vibrate and poking holes in things. He went into giving boners to nerds, and she went into giving lady boners to bored housewives whose nerdy husbands can't please them sexually. Nailed it. So she worked as a producer for Lifetime and Hallmark and was making those really cheesy romance and was like, I want to go more risque, more erotic. I have some good news. So in the teacher-student romance, she's 23 and he's 33, but the actors they cast are both 35. So like visually it's not as creepy an age gap, but in the book,
Never mind that now.
From a reviewer, I have never read a more irritating character than Julia, who at 23 is ridiculously fragile and weak and pathetic. Her past demons are not even demons, and she falls apart in tears almost every chapter. And then Gabriel needs to constantly look after her because she's so childlike.
You need to let me feed you.
She looked down, she blushed, she shivered, she cried, she fainted like, OMG, is she a mouse or a 23-year-old woman?
Let me feed you. I won't let you starve.
You'll catch pneumonia and die.
A lot of these producers would come back and go, we can't make this movie, not in today's environment, in the Me Too movement. There's no way. This girl is this rabbit, this demure rabbit, that's completely crushed by her professor and all these things. I was like, what are you talking about?
You have all the power, you could destroy me.
Class is dismissed.
This is Passionflix, this is her thing, and their shtick is they only adapt romance novels that are already popular and have a big following. They don't do anything original and just buy up these crappy romance novels and then barely adapt them. That's like the whole thing, is they don't change it. The fans will be mad if we change anything at all. So they're not adapting them, they're just like copy and pasting them. So to cover the 4 books in the series, they're gonna make 12 movies. They've already made 9 of them. As you can see here, where the indie film producer is announcing that they've wrapped filming on her brother's little website, Twitter. Tosca describes working with screenwriters where she's like, wait, why did you change this? This wasn't in the book. And they're like, well, I was trying to show blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no. Don't change anything. We wanted exactly what's in the book. And they're like, well, that's weird because you hired me to adapt it.
I need them to adapt a book, and I need it to be adapted exactly how it is, and I don't want your version of it. It's hard to get writers to understand that. They will try and adjust things in a scene, and fortunately I read it, I'm like, I don't think they do that.
I find you difficult to talk to sometimes.
It's an interesting direction to give them, but once they get it, they get it. And then they're like, oh, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as just transferring this book into basically a screenplay format.
Oh, you just want me to like format it into a screenplay. Like, this is just like a macro. That's like hiring somebody to like change your manuscript from single space to double space. So A, like, that's the easiest goddamn screenwriting job on the planet. And B, it's not adaptation though. And so what happens when you don't adapt a novel into a film? We'll find out.
So the movie itself is currently about 5 hours and 40 minutes.
I also think it's funny that like the first like business model, this is our thing, is we just film the whole book. Like, we're not throwing anything out. Is about crappy romance novels, not like Cryptonomicon or Jurassic Park. How long would Cryptonomicon be as a movie? 30 hours? I guess it makes sense that the first was about romance novels because it's super easy and cheap to just like have the scene go on really long with people staring at each other. That's easier than more sets and actors, and like half the runtime of these movies is just like, she looks, he looks away, she blushes, she bites her lip, he looks at her, oh, she looks away.
So we were just like, I'm not cutting anything. And then as we were getting in there and filming it, I was like, hang on a second, I feel like we're missing something from the book, quick! And I would just add things.
Then I'll take you shopping. Foreplay is essential. I'm a good lover. You need to let me feed you.
So it's sexy Hallmark Channel, it's mommy porn, it's erotica. She was tired of working at Lifetime and Hallmark. They don't get erotic enough, right? So she's making her own. It's going to be super erotic. It's called Passionflix. I have a quote from their website. We find the most passionate content to satisfy our viewers. Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic do not even list these movies, which I guess makes sense because like you're not finding Backdoor Sluts 9 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's porn. We're not reviewing porn. Okay. These movies are sexy but not pornographic because, quote, women are more interested in two people's hands touching than watching genitals, Musk says. Oh, that's what women want? Women want that. Don't speak for all women, Tosca. All women just want to watch people's hands and not boobs and genitals. Like, some women are perverts. Like, don't speak for all women. So you think this is going to be erotic. Passionflix. We're here to satisfy our viewers. Mommy erotica stuff. You cast your Italian looking dude, looks like Superman. So I'm thinking, Mario's going to show her his Luigi. Show her the Mushroom Kingdom.
Mushroom, the taste for all seasons. Mushrooms.
Show Princess Peach how he's a plumber. The platform specializes in steamy, softcore adaptations of romance novels, the kinds of novels with shirtless, buff men on the cover who are always talking about the tightness in their pants, the kinds that are one-handed reads. No nudity whatsoever in this film. You don't even see a nipple. There's one part where she gets her shirt's wet, and you can kind of see a nipple poking, and he's like, maybe you should change clothes, and she's like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. That's the closest you get to nudity in this film. Pretty exciting. No dong at all. How many sex scenes do you think there are in Gabriel's Inferno Part 1? Shout it out if you know it. 0. There's 0 sex scenes in this film. So 2 hours in, all you get is they lightly kiss twice. And even then, both of those scenes are so distractingly bad or weird that I'm not going to say you're not aroused by it because, like, hey, you do you.
You naughty little kitty.
But it made me want to vomit. And it's trying so hard to be vanilla that it might actually turn on people who are into vomit. Like, it's gone so far the other direction. That sounds like a joke. I'm not joking.
Vanilla. You smell like vanilla. I'm a good lover.
On to the film. Okay, here we go. So the plot is a basic will they, won't they. Aside from the ups and downs of the wills they, won'ts they, the 6-hour-long plot of Gabriel's Inferno Part 1, 2, and 3, basically it's just like a set of mysteries. And by mystery, I mean like his phone rings and it's a woman. Who's that woman? And then you find out like 4 hours later who that woman was. Or she has a dark past, and the dark past is like she had a boyfriend before and he was a jerk, I guess. These are mysteries. The big thing is there's a flashback about 45 minutes in, and it completely changes the first 45 minutes of the film. And so I'm going to tell you the story chronologically. I think that if I tell you the flashback first, it'll make more sense and you'll be able to understand how little sense the plot makes. So the flashback, not the beginning of the film, beginning of the story. Julia is 17. She goes over to her best friend Rachel's house to have dinner with the family. She walks in and there's like shit broken. Somebody got thrown through a table.
He's shoved my parents, made my mom cry, and since got to the emergency room.
And it turns out that Gabriel, her best friend's brother, got in a fight with her other brother, I guess, who I don't think we even meet him until like the third movie. She meets Gabriel, her best friend's brother, who she's never met before, and he has a very thick Italian accent.
Do I make myself clear?
It's like, why does he have an accent and nobody else in the family does? 'Cause he's adopted. It's like, when did they adopt him? Julia shows up. There's shit broken because of domestic violence, and they're like, oh my god, Gabriel's crazy, and she sees him outside, and she goes and meets him, and she just immediately like falls in love, crushes on him, because domestic violence is so sexy, I guess. She gets turned on by like walking on crunching broken glass. Maybe that's a fetish. We learn that Rachel's family is so broken because she says,
My family is so broken.
so 17-year-old Julia goes to comfort the 27-year-old man who just put his own brother in the hospital. He just immediately like sweeps her off her feet. He offers her a Labatt's, so that's romantic.
You're cold. Ever have a beer before? I'm glad I'm your first. Have you ever held a boy's hand? Then I'm glad I'm your first.
He's 27 and she's 17, by the way. Also, what 17-year-old girl has never held hands with a boy? Oh yeah, square dancing class counts, right?
This is paradise.
He calls her an angel and takes her to the apple orchard and calls that paradise.
An angel to watch over me.
And then he calls her Beatrice, even though she's like, well, my name's Julia. And he's like, no, Beatrice. You know, like Dante and Beatrice. And she's like, I have no fucking idea what you're talking about. Nobody knows what you're talking about. He's like, oh, I'm a Dante scholar. What are you two doing? And you're just like Dante's muse, Beatrice. You're my muse that I just met 40 seconds ago. By the way, keep in mind, these are two 35-year-olds. So the whole story, 4 novels worth, it's all about this allegory theme, whatever, that he's Dante and she's Beatrice. And it's all these like references to Dante Alighieri, who wrote the Divine Comedy.
You're a Beatrice.
Who's Beatrice?
Beatrice was his muse. He met her when she was young, and she was his guide through paradise.
He says she looks like Beatrice, but there's a famous painting. It's shown in here. I think they both own a copy of this painting in their respective apartments. It's part of the like title sequence. She does not look like the Beatrice in this painting. So he meets a girl who's 17, immediately was like, you look just like Beatrice, so therefore you're my muse now, because I'm Dante, I guess. How many girls does he say in this spiel to? Fucking every girl? What did he see in her in the 46 seconds he's been talking to her to be like, you're my muse? Because she doesn't look like the painting. Is it her great conversational skills where she's just like quiet?
Have you ever looked up at the stars with a boy lying next to you?
So they lay out under the stars in the apple orchard, and he's her first kiss, and we're like gonna be in love. The kiss is over like immediately though, like we don't even linger on this. And then he's like, well, I have to like go to Europe, so see you never. We'll just have to meet again romantically at some point in the future. Come find me. Maybe in hell. You'll have to search hell to find me, because I'm a bad boy. So that's the flashback we don't know about yet when the film actually begins. So 6 years later, film actually opens. Julia, 23, played by a 35-year-old Australian. She's a grad student. It's her first day at grad school, where she's getting a master's in Dante. Dontology. Guess who her professor is? So this bitch has a one-night, not even stand, a one-night cuddle, and then makes her entire life revolve around this. She goes and studies Italian, and now she's going to grad school for Dante. All because this dude, like, made out with her once 6 years ago and then never talked to her again. And keep in mind, he is her best friend's brother, and yet they've had zero contact. He doesn't remember her. It's like, she never, like, checks in with the sister of, like, hey, I made out with your brother. They never wrote to each other. I'm going to major in this. I'm going to go get a master's degree in Italian medieval literature for this boy that kissed me once. What a strong character.
The fact that anybody would read these stories and then think Julia has no strength or she's weak is just, it blows me away. And I was like, what? She's one of our strongest one of the strongest female characters that I've worked with, because she's had to go through so much.
This would be like if I was hitting on a girl for one day when I was 17 and I completely forgot about it, and then like 8 years later she's completely obsessed with whatever I was talking about that one day. So she's stalking me, I guess, and getting a PhD in Lincoln Park. I don't know. All right, there is shit in there about like she didn't want to go to this university. She just has to because her family's too poor to pay for Harvard.
She got into Harvard, like.
She got into Harvard. Yeah. Exactly. The girl's very smart.
So like she's not stalking him. This was like her backup school. Here's a thought: don't get a master's in Dante. You know, you don't have to study Italian medieval literature. So we open. She's in class. She gets in trouble in class because she's like daydreaming. And then we meet Paul, who's the tall, dark, and handsome, the Clark Kent, big-jawed man, and like nice, but she's not into him. I've watched 3 films, and I was like, he's a pretty good dude. Why aren't you into this guy?
It's because you love Gabriel so
I'm
much.
I'm Team Gabriel. I'm not Team Jacob.
I just had to bring it up because your reaction to him.
Supposed to be studying to be a Dante specialist?
So you're here for Emerson. He's difficult to work with. And there's also Krista Peterson.
Krista?
She's his other PhD student. But her goal is to be the future Mrs. Emerson.
All'alta fantasia qui manco posa.
Correct, Miss Peterson.
I'm the older grad student. Let me tell you everyone's details. And I'm the nice guy, and I'm scared of all these professors. He's scary. This dude is always like scared of every professor. She goes to meet him in his office because she got in trouble, and then she leaves a note because she's too weak and passive to just like knock on the door. So she leaves a note. And then, oh my god, it's the note that said he was an ass on the other side, because she's just so clumsy. She's just clumsy constantly, which is a thing in like 50 Shades of Grey too. Is that a thing in Twilight? She's just always... Her main character trait is she like is clumsy. And then later they do have a meeting in his office, and immediately she's like, oh, my whole purse dumped out and everything's everywhere. I'm so clumsy.
Perhaps you're not too bright. I'm the only professor in this department who's supervising theses in that field. And since this is not going to work, you'll have to change your topic. Find another supervisor or transfer departments, or better yet, university.
You're a dumb bitch, so like this isn't gonna work. So transfer or change your thesis. And the whole like this isn't gonna work is based on the fact that like she passed a note in class. Like this is how grad school works. Like you were passing notes in my class and you're a dumb bitch, so like go to a different college. He doesn't remember her. And then she's walking home in the rain and she gets so wet and cold because she's always cold and wet. If she's not clumsy, she's being cold and wet or hungry. She's cold, wet, hungry, and clumsy. Those are her main characteristics.
You'll catch pneumonia and die.
You'll catch pneumonia and die. You should change into some dry clothes.
You're cold.
Let me feed you.
I won't let you starve.
So she's walking home in the rain, and he pulls over in his car. What is he driving? You can shout it out if you know it. What's he driving? Who runs Passionflix? It's a Tesla. He picks her up in his Tesla, and then when they get to her place, which is a shitty apartment, she goes to get out, and he's like, no, and like holds her in so that he can get out, walk around with an umbrella to open the door for her, and then umbrella escort her to her door, and then goes into the apartment with her for no reason, because he's just such a gentleman. He's such a gentleman who's an asshole to students.
Is English your first language?
He goes into her shitty grad school apartment and is like, this sucks. Why are you so poor? This is shitty.
This is a terrible place to live.
You don't even have a stove. Like, how do you cook? And she's like, I make couscous on a hot plate.
Couscous is very nutritious.
So he's like, all right, I'm going to feed you. Not, hey, can I take you out to dinner? No, it's like, I am feeding you steak. Change your clothes, and we're going on a date, and I'm feeding you steak.
I'll change.
So he goes and sits in his car while she changes. And then it's like 3 minutes of just like waiting. We're anticipating the date, I guess. Tense, romantic moments where nothing happens.
Vanilla.
So then he takes her on an elegant, romantic date where we have wine porn. It is wine porn. Like, fucking ladies be loving their red wine. It's like, pour it, and she's like sniffing it. There's like slow-mo wine stuff.
Like a flower in a tree. Like a bird.
You shouldn't cook with wine you wouldn't drink. So I'm drinking cooking wine. We get a little porn, red wine porn. Oh yeah. Cooking wine is salty.
I think I like you better when you're drunk.
The classy man takes the not classy lady to the fancy restaurant and she doesn't know how to order because she can't speak Italian or French, and so he has to order for her. Anyway, we do that, except what's weird is she speaks Italian. I couldn't be burdened with the responsibility of ordering my own food. So anyway, I'm drinking some very good red wine. A blend of red wine and distilled spirits. What do you think that means? This shit is salty. I don't recommend drinking it.
And then I will bring a beautiful tiramisu and an affogato with vanilla bean gelato. Complimenti.
And then he asks her, like, why are you into Dante? What got you into this? And she's like, a friend about 6 years ago got me into this. He still doesn't know who she is. He still does not recognize her. She's been in love with him for 6 years, holding this flame. She's made her whole life into becoming his perfect Dante, his Beatrice. He doesn't remember her. Very romantic. She runs into Rachel, and it's like, oh, my best friend. And so Rachel's like, I'm making dinner for me and Gabriel, and you're coming.
Do you want to do me a favor and remove the pole from your keister?
They have to pretend they didn't go on a date, and they don't have this romantic tension.
Your brother wants you all to himself.
We can't be together outside of school because I am her professor. It's like, you just took her out to dinner last night.
What is going on between you two?
Rachel, she's my student.
So they go to Gabriel's apartment, and he's got a super rich, fancy apartment. He's got 15th century original art that some museum is pestering him about. Only my lawyer and my insurance agent and you know that I have this. Very rich man with very fancy things.
What are we having with the wine?
Couscous.
And she then is like, oh, I'm so anxious, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to fix this problem by just kind of mashing all the glass shards together into a pile with her bare hands. Because this is how you clean up broken glass. You just gotta like mash them into a pile. If you mash glass shards together enough, it'll eventually break down into sand. You turn it into a sandcastle. So of course she like cuts the shit out of her hands, so now we have to have a very romantic moment where he's putting alcohol on her hands and they're like holding hands.
Don't do what you're told.
I'm so sorry.
I have a bad temper, and I can be destructive.
Wrath is one of the 7 deadly sins.
I have all 7, while I'm a magnet for sin.
And he says, are you going to tell me who you are? So dude hooks up with her, tells her she is his muse, she's in love with him for 6 years, makes her entire life about him. He does not remember her. Even when they start talking about Dante and Beatrice on their date, still doesn't remember her. Even when he realizes that she is friends with his sister, still doesn't remember who she is. Does he have amnesia? Like, what the fuck?
Girl, if I was her, I would just give up. I would have took it like, well, that wasn't important to him at all. Okay. I'm over here studying this because of him, which I hope not. Bitch, don't do anything for a man.
You have to assume he's been spending the last like 15 years telling any girl he has any interest in, like, oh my god, you're my muse, you're my Beatrice. I'm a Dante scholar, by the way.
You'll catch pneumonia and die.
You'll catch pneumonia and die.
Vanilla.
You smell like vanilla. You look like it's Beatrice. But you do remind me of Beatrice from Holiday's painting.
He probably has gotten so bored. I want to see like year 10 of him using this spiel where he's like, you're my Beatrice, just look it up on Wikipedia, it's a thing, let's go have sex now. So this is the point where the flashback happens, and then it's like 6 years earlier, and we go, oh, this is how they met. But then you're like, wait, so why doesn't he remember her? He's always calling her Beatrice. This metaphor I came up with is so great. You're my Beatrice to my Dante. And she hates it, and he keeps calling her that. Hot tip, ladies love it when you come up with a nickname that they hate and you insist on using over and over.
No, you're a beautiful woman, Beatrice.
Stop saying that.
So we have these ups and downs where he's like, Miss Mitchell, call me professor. He even says, don't call me doctor, because like all kinds of like dentists will say they're a doctor. Which is funny because in real life, the actor's a dentist. I'm your professor. Call me professor. Anyway, I'm going to take you on a romantic dinner date now. Here's a gift. It's just like, oh my god, like pick a lane. Like there's no arc. It's just like every 5 minutes we've gone through every extreme of this.
The character of Gabriel, the first time I read it, I remember I had to put the book down for a little bit because he was irritating me, driving me crazy.
We're being professional. No, we're being naughty but hiding it. To no, we're not even hiding it. To no, we can't do this. Anyway, I'm going to go on a date with Paul now, and then he's jealous, so now he wants her.
Rabbit? Little rabbit. You're welcome, rabbit.
He's constantly talking about how innocent and naive she is, and then at a certain point, he's like, I've made you blush all over. Ugh. Ugh. But she's so naive. She's such an angel. She's so pure. But I'm a sinner. I have dark secrets. I'm every deadly sin. All 7 deadly sins. I have them all. Because I'm like a fucking vampire or something? Like, what? What are your sins? Oh, right. It's Twilight Fan Fiction. So what are his sins if he's not a vampire?
I want to go to a club.
You know, I hate those places. I can't dance, and it's too loud.
Gabriel said almost the exact same thing.
Gabriel would come with us?
Is this like fucking high school? We're like, what are we, 15?
How old are we?
Of course. It can't just be we go to a club. No, it has to be a club with a line out the door, but Gabriel can get them in because obviously professors, you know, they want to get us in there. Makes your club look good to have a lot of professors inside. And we can't just jump the line and be cool. No. We have to go to a VIP section. So they go to the roped off VIP section by themselves. It's just the 3 of them. That sounds fun. You go with your sister and her friend to the VIP section and just go sit in the corner by yourselves.
She's with me.
I didn't hear you asking me to dance.
That would rather defeat the purpose of watching, don't you think?
Not creepy at all.
Let me feed you.
I can feed myself.
Of course you can, but why should you? You blush like a teenager. It's more than obvious that you're still a virgin.
Her hymen is so intact you can read it on her face. It's like a whole body hymen. Hashtag whole body hymen.
I can feed myself.
Of course you can, but why should you?
So then there's a black dude who works at the club, and he comes up to her and is like, hey, you speak Italian because you're hanging out with that guy, that creepy. My girlfriend speaks Italian. Can you help me write a text message in Italian to impress my girlfriend? And so she helps. But Gabriel sees this and thinks she must be giving her number to this black guy, and he don't like her talking to black men. So he immediately comes over and is like, gets her away from this dude.
Why did you give me your number?
So many goddamn red flags about this man, but this is arousing to her. You housewives that are reading these books one-handed and drinking your red wine, you love it when a tall man grabs you, shoves you against the wall, don't you? But she finds this so romantic, she says, quote,
why don't you just stick a knife in my heart and get it over with?
He asks her to dance, and she says, fuck no. I do not want to dance. So 20 seconds later, they're dancing. Which is weird, because we were just in a club with like 4 on the floor. You know, we're in the club. And now suddenly, because Italian Superman is like, we're dancing, now suddenly we're in like a completely different kind of location. So, in an article from Wired magazine, often male screenwriters skip over scenes that matter to women, like discussions about consent, Musk says. A male screenwriter might write that a man grabs and kisses a woman, implying the woman just accepts it. Quote, I'm like, no, she doesn't, Musk says. She leans in, raises her head, looks into his eyes, and then at his lips. That's a woman saying, I want something.
But you won't fucking talk to me!
Shouting at me won't persuade me to talk to you!
So see here, he grabs her. It's lots of consent going on.
Why don't you just stick a knife in my heart?
So I guess she's giving consent to murder her. So all right, there's consent. Might come in handy in book 12, I don't know. By the mid-2010s, Musk was, quote, tired of making movies where the woman was abused,
Class is dismissed!
or diseased, or assaulted.
Record me!
And I go to bed like a good little boy.
Please don't hurt me.
Quote, she wanted movies where the woman was strong and confident. Julia is so strong and confident, you know. Main characteristics, weak, clumsy, quiet, cold and wet and hungry, and needs a man to feed her. I guess she was confident in her ability to mash glass shards together. I mean, that took a lot of confidence. She has a lot of confidence in her hymen. That's my personality. I'm a puritanical virgin, and all you other people are sluts. Gabriel buys her a bunch of gifts, fancy things. Again, this is porn for women. Fancy gifts, fancy wine, fancy chocolate, Italian Superman, big jaw man says creepy things and grabs you, pushes you against the wall, makes you dance, shoves scotch in your face. Anyway, he buys her gifts, lots of gifts. He doesn't want her to know they're from him, so he gives the money to Rachel so that Rachel will buy it. He's just such a good dude. He doesn't want the credit. He just wants her to have the nice things. Rachel's not supposed to tell her that they're really from him, but of course Rachel just tells her anyway.
Professors don't make that much.
Julia, Gabriel's like super rich.
What?
But he's a professor. Aren't they poor? Yes. But she should know he's rich. She's been in his Tesla. She's been to his apartment that's full of fancy things. He showed her his favorite chair. Like, he showed her 15th century art. Bitch, you know he's got money. So this is like, do you have amnesia? No, I think the whole thing is they don't want her to appear to be a gold digger. So she doesn't know he has money, even though there's 7 reasons she should know he has money. So she's not into him for the money. She thought he was a poor professor with a Tesla and 15th century original art. Why did she think they were getting into the fancy club? Because he's a professor? Like, what the hell? So she has amnesia, I guess. She forgot he's super rich. You know, amnesia makes writing a lot easier, doesn't it?
One for me and one for Gabriel. Oh, Professor Emerson to you.
You've never called him Gabriel to his face. I dare you to do it next time you see him.
Oh, you dare me?
At one point, she falls asleep studying, and he finds her, and she's just been doodling his name. Because what are we, fucking 14?
R. Who's R?
Little rabbit.
Why not B?
For bitch.
Have you had dinner?
No.
Join me. Are you cold? I see the wheels turning in a little mind of yours, so why do you do that? Provoke me.
Can we just be Julianne and Gabriel?
So she's walking past the club that they were at earlier. Black dude who she helped is like, hey, I need your help. And she's like, oh, you want me to write another Italian romance text?
Okay, so he's inside, super drunk. He does not do well to get cut off.
He's an asshole. So will you help me get him into a taxi? And she's like, oh, of course I will help. Now we go in and he's sitting there getting drunk with Krista, right? And he's clearly into Krista. She's into him, but I guess he's just using her for like fuck buddy stuff. She's not his muse, even though she's also a Dante scholar. This like waitress comes over and dumps a drink on Krista to like get her out of the picture, which is like, what do they have against Krista? You're telling me that if they went to Krista and were like, can we get him out of here? Can we help? Can we get him into a taxi? Krista wouldn't help get him in a taxi back to his place? Really? They dump a drink on her. It's clearly empty. There's nothing in this. They couldn't afford the liquid.
First, a drink.
I already have one.
Does it pair well with couscous? I'm sorry. I shouldn't make fun of your poverty.
So I guess Krista doesn't want to date rape him, doesn't want to take him in the cab, but Julia, they trust. Get him in the cab. We get some amazing drunk acting. Oh my god. This is some of the best drunk acting I've ever seen. Just look at that. So she gets him into his apartment, and it's like, all right, you're in your apartment. Now you can leave him now. And of course, she's got to like help him in, and oh, we're kissing. And then he throws up on her. Yeah, puke. I told you we get pukey. He throws up. He's throwing up all over the place.
You're taking me to bed, but you haven't even kissed me yet. You naughty little kitty.
And I go to bed like a good little boy.
Please don't hurt me.
Sweet like candy.
It's so romantic. So then she goes to change. So she's just staying the night, I guess, because he puked on her clothes. And she's like helping him puke. Okay, she gets him into bed. And then he's like, oh.
Beatrice, you found me.
You remember?
He remembers now because he's really drunk. When he's drunk and pukey, suddenly he remembers her from 6 years ago.
I love you so much. It hurts.
This movie is so vanilla, it goes all the way around to being kinky to people that are into vomit, like emetophilia. There's 2 kisses in this movie, and one of them, he's 27 and she's 17. Might want to throw up there. And then the second one, he was literally just throwing up all over the place, and now they're kissing. So... And I was thinking, like, this dude was so drunk, he's throwing up, but he's still being so romantic, even when he was this hammered. I just really want him to be like, I do love you, Beatrice. Hey, you think KFC's still open?
Hello?
Who the hell is this?
Who's this?
It's Paulina. Put Gabriel on.
He's, indisposed at the moment?
Indisposed? Listen, you little slut.
So she sleeps in his arms, in his pukey arms, and she wakes up first and she goes to make him breakfast because she's basically like, I'm your wife now. I'm going to take care of you. And she writes a note and signs it Beatrice. And it's like, oh, we did it. We're in love. There's still 2 more movies to go in this trilogy. And then like 3 more books, I guess.
What the hell are you doing here?
Because she's a clumsy bitch. And he doesn't remember. He's forgotten. He's amnesia'd.
The fuck are you doing in my clothes?
Don't you remember last night?
No.
Again, it's forgotten that she was the girl from 6 years ago. Okay. And she is just super mad at him now for forgetting again. It's like, okay, bitch, all you have to do is be like, hey, remember the thing 6 years ago? That was me. And he'd be like, oh, okay, we're in love. Oh, right, I forgot about that. I remember now.
I love you so much.
Just remind him of it again, you'll be in love, and all problems are solved. But no, instead they yell at each other a lot.
Lousy drunk! I should have let you fuck her brains out in front of everyone on top of the bar at lobby.
What are you talking about?
Hell up.
Did you and I have sex?
In your dreams.
That's not an answer.
Of course, you would have to be drunk to want to fuck me. I think I like you better when you're drunk.
The plot demands that you're mad at him now. And I'm like, bitch, he didn't forget. This dude has a traumatic brain injury from like so much vigorous sex with underage girls. He's hit his head too many times, I think. Wait, are you 18? So she like walks out and is so mad and suddenly grows a spine and is like, I'm not your Beatrice anymore. When like 40 seconds ago, she was signing a note, Beatrice.
Beatrice, wait! Beatrice!
I'm not your Beatrice anymore.
And then credits. I'm not your Beatrice anymore. Credits. So movie 2, middle of book 1 is going to be he's obsessed with her now and he really wants her now that he remembers. But she's going to be like, nope, I'm over you now. I've got a different Dante scholar, Paul. She'll be into Paul. And then he'll probably go back to Krista, but then that'll make her jealous of that. And then, plot twist, her ex-boyfriend shows up and he's a werewolf. Except this isn't Twilight Fan Fiction anymore. So he's not a werewolf, he's just mean.
Bitch!
So filmmaking wise, it looks like a TV movie, looks like a Hallmark movie, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's like they're shooting a whole movie in like 15 days and on a pretty low budget. So like it's fine for what it is. Tosca Musk's directing is the Mark Zuckerberg of haircuts. It's like, if you only had 45 seconds to do it, it's not so bad. Is it worth watching? I was going through, pulling out the clips, and I was just pulling out like, oh, I need that. I was pulling out like 80% of the dialogue because it's also cringy and terrible.
That's my favorite chair.
My family is so broken.
The prodigal son returns.
Am I so evil?
Don't you notice how he stares at you?
Sweet like candy.
Do you want to do me a favor and remove the pole from your keister?
So that makes me think like this is a good hate watch. This is on par with like 50 Shades of Grey. And Aaron and I had a good time playing a 50 Shades of Grey drinking game, which is something like drink every time she bites her lip or every time he tries to feed her and stuff like that. We lost steam on 50 Shades 2. We got kind of bored of it. I spilled wine on my glasses. But I would say that the drawback on this is that it's just so slow.
It's a long, slow burn, but you guys have watched the first 2 hours.
It flew by. It does not feel like 2 hours.
It's so much dead time. So I guess the answer is have someone edit down these films and cut out all the silence and bullshit until it's a 2-hour movie, and then maybe it'd be worth it. I guess the answer is I'm making that right now. That's what I'm making. So just watch my videos. You don't need to watch the movie. That's it. There you go.
Because Emerson is an ass.
Maybe if they, I don't know, trim some stuff, do something called adaptation. Adaptation. I will say, based on what I've read of the book, I think the film is probably a better experience than the book because you don't have to read the crappy prose, like the terrible narrator. So that's a plus.
Well, I don't, it's a romance novel.
I'm going to read to you from chapter 1 of Gabriel's Inferno. Lost in thought, or lost in translation, 10 pairs of eyes swung to her pale face and long lashes, her thin white fingers clutching a pen. Then 10 pairs of eyes swung back to the professor, who stood perfectly still and began to scowl.
See me in my office.
His scathing demeanor contrasted sharply with the overall symmetry of his features, his large, expressive eyes and full mouth. It sounds like he's chewing while he's professing. The novel was invented by Ernest Hemingway in 1919 as a prank. She followed his gaze slowly, looking up into a pair of angry, peering blue eyes. She swallowed noisily. Amazing. How loudly can you swallow? That's good cooking wine. It's very salty. His voice was glacial, like his eyes. Such good writing.
Today I will be examining the relationship between Dante and Beatrice.
Here's a quote from the book. He would leave her as he found her, the blushing, brown-eyed angel, surrounded by bunnies, curled up like a kitten in her little chair. This is so, like, infantilizing. She's a little kitten. Gabriel calls her kitten. I don't know if I mentioned that. Gabriel calls her kitten and Paul calls her rabbit. It's just so infantilizing and child molesty.
I'm not a child.
And stop acting like one.
Quote, "Don't cry." With his brilliant blue eyes closed, Gabriel pressed his lips to her forehead once, twice, thrice. "I should have waited. I love you." Now Julia wept harder, clinging to him as if she were drowning and he was her savior. This is from right after he was vomiting. Passionflix started with Tosca Musk announcing it at a romance novel convention, and she was like, hey, if you pay $100, you can become a founding member, which is also something like Tesla did, like founding members getting perks. The pitch worked. 3,000 women at the conference paid $100 to become founding members who are, quote, treated as royalty on set. Giulio Baruti, that's your Italian Superman. Why, he asked a group of women a few feet behind the monitor on the soundstage, is Gabriel so angry in this scene? So the actor has no idea why his character's angry. That's a good sign. The women had ideas, not because they were writers or directors or script supervisors, no, because they were fans. Invited here by the film's director, Tosca Musk, to share their insights about the relationship between a sweetly innocent graduate student and her improbably gorgeous Dante professor who harbors a dark secret. Improbably gorgeous. That sounds like they're saying professors are ugly, and that's clearly not true. I mean, look, like, this is peak professordom right here. What's up? What's up, girls? You like red wine?
I'm a woman, not a girl.
I was talking about students. Do I have to feed you, by the way? A coterie of 5 to 30 fans mingled on set, sitting next to Musk where she filmed, offering advice. They shared breakfast with Musk, tagged along to wardrobe fittings with the actors. That doesn't sound creepy. One fan turned to the script supervisor and joked, if this dialogue is not exactly how it is in the book, the fans are going to tell you. He told her that they already had, earlier in the shoot, a fan let him know that 2 words were out of order.
Sonnets could be written by your mouth.
To get as much of the 506-page book into the movie, which is what every fan's dreams are made of, Musk has given it a 5.5-hour runtime. Adaptation is often about figuring out, like, what's actually filmable, what's going to be actually exciting to see on the screen that maybe works on a page but won't work in the film.
I'm not an abusive asshole.
Often reducing a character count, too many characters, you know, combine some characters maybe. Often combining several scenes into an individual scene. Like in a book, it's not a big deal if you have an exposition scene and then like you meet a character and then there's a scene that drives the plot forward and then you have a scene that's there to be funny. Screenwriting largely is about having scenes that accomplish multiple tasks simultaneously. And if you don't do that, it's going to be horribly slow because it's like, well, there's an exposition scene and that was boring. And then there was a funny scene, but it doesn't drive the plot forward, so that doesn't add any momentum. And now a new character is introduced, but you're bored. This is like my screenwriting pro tip. A1 prime. Scenes need to accomplish multiple things. If the plot stops dead for 9 pages to do something funny that doesn't advance the plot, that's called a deleted scene. One of my favorite examples of this multitasking is in Tropic Thunder. At the very beginning, we have these fake trailers. It's like, okay, that's an interesting fake trailers, but also it introduces all of these characters like through their movie careers. So we're meeting characters in memorable ways, and it's funny. So it's like exposition, character introductions, funny, all at once. I think you can do this business model, this like, we buy up romance novels that have these built-in rabid audiences and adapt them. You can do that business model without this goddamn not adapting the novel thing. Like, we're just copying and pasting the novel. I mean, you are adapting it because you're not using, it's not the audiobook with all of the narration and all of the prose. So you're already losing that. So just go another step and just like hire a screenwriter. Tosca, hire a screenwriter, and not to just change the formatting, okay? Good lord. Speaking of the horrible prose, here's some stuff from, I'm stealing these from Goodreads. Quote, "You blossom under kindness, don't you? Like a rose. She does blossom under kindness, just like a rose, opening her petals. Her shoulders were hunched and her head was down. He'd made his little rose wither. Any blossoming had now been completely undone. She would be a rose in his eyes, and she would flower beneath him. I want her petals to open," Gabriel breathed softly. He's saying this to his own sister. Say to your sister, I want her labia to open up. Oh my god. So it's dropping all these references to like Italian medieval literature or Mozart or whatever and art, so that like as you're sitting there reading it, you feel very classy and cultured and smart for like, oh, it's talking about the Divine Comedy. I'm just so smart.
Did you read Dante's Inferno?
Part.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an 8th grader who's carrying around a copy of like a Stephen Hawking book and being like, I'm really enjoying this. I really enjoy how everyone thinks I'm so smart for reading this, because I didn't do that. The incessant list of pretentious shit. Again, I'm getting this off Goodreads. Chopin's Nocturne 9, Henry Holliday's Dante Meets Beatrice at Ponte Santa Trinita, Venus de Milo and Bernini's Apollo and Daphne, Botticelli's complete set of illustrations of the Divine Comedy, Serigo Alighieri Val Amarone 2000. Yes, that is the wine from the vineyard Dante's family owned. Okay. A Meisterstück 149, which is a very expensive fountain pen. Mozart's Requiem, Lacrimosa, is featured very prominently in this film. Rodin's The Kiss, Beowulf, Lefroy, he's into Lefroy. My family is like a Dickensian novel, Julia. No, it's worse.
My family is so broken.
Quote, we're a twisted mix of Arthur Miller and John Steinbeck with a bit of Dostoevsky and Tolstoy thrown in. See what I mean? These references don't mean anything. This is just like, I'm referencing fancy things. What are you staring at me for? Quote, my family is like a Dickensian novel, Julia. No. Bro, you're spilling my red wine everywhere. My fancy red wine. Novel, Julia. No. With a bit of Dostoevsky and Tolstoy thrown in.
It's fake fancy.
Fake fancy.
This is for people who think Cheesecake Factory is fancy.
This is the Cheesecake Factory of fancy erotica. It's the Cheesecake Factory of streaming services.
Sure.
Here's how we order beer and a pizza. You ready? Gabriel liked it because they sold a particular kind of Trappist ale that he preferred, Chimay Premier. And it pleased him to have a pizza in the Neapolitan style.
Ugh.
Fake fancy.
Ugh. It's just like European.
Drinking game idea. Drink every time he feeds her or is like, you're going to dinner with me, or shoves scotch in her face.
Wait, is this 50 Shades of Grey? Why?
Does he like constantly feed her in Twilight? I've not seen her.
It's a thing in Twilight because he doesn't eat.
Vicarious enjoyment through her? Is that a thing?
You need to eat because I don't need to eat. Like you work in.
It's something.
It's a thing.
It's something.
It's a thing.
Every time he comments on her being cold or wet, and then either puts a blanket on her, gives her his coat. Every time he comments on her being poor.
I shouldn't make fun of your poverty.
She just wants a fin dom.
And every time somebody writes or leaves a note. I'm going to the store. I left a note.
My dear Julianne. Good morning, Julianne.
Vestra.
Please do me the honor of gracing me with your presence. With a note. If you wish to know how I feel about you.
Do these people not have text messaging?
They do.
You're Julia. XO.
Bitches fucking love notes. If you want to be romantic, leave a note. Make sure to shove food in her face. Grab her and push her against the wall if she talks to a black man. These are the keys to romance.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I do think the food thing, so many guys are shitty about women eating and...
Oh, like shaming.
Shaming about, like...
You should only eat a salad.
This man is the opposite of that.
He's always giving her chocolate.
He wants me to be well-nourished.
Lots of chocolate. For advanced drinkers, just drink every time somebody in the group rolls their eyes or groans, because that might just kill you. I don't think this will top 50 Shades of Grey's drinking game, because it's just so boring. Somebody read 50 Shades and was like, you know what we need? That, but more vanilla, which is like saying, I want to make an Aaron Sorkin movie without witty repartee, which is just, I guess, people walking and not talking. But is it really fair to criticize this like it's a real film? Like, you don't go around examining the themes of Backdoor Sluts 9, which is clearly an exploration of an allegorical tone poem about sphincters. But on the other hand, this isn't pornographic. It's porny in the ways of like food porn and like an Italian man gives you compliments porn.
You're sexy, lovely, smart.
Then I'll take you shopping.
You don't see titties. Like, it's not pornographic, it's porno something. Somebody in the comments, invent the word porno not graphic. Imagine these women watching 6 hours of erotic thriller. It all culminates in a final sex scene at the end of the 6 hours featuring Italian Superman, and they've got HD, 4K, perfectly framed, and they still don't want to see his dong. Think about how much they don't want to see your crappy dick pics, dude. Like, good lord. So, in the next episode, part 2, I'm going to do my best impression of an English professor, which is what I do every day. Where even is my vagina? I'm going to go into the Dante Beatrice story. What is that story? And then how it's connected to this, how it's thematically there, Dante and Beatrice. Does it make sense? Is it using it correctly? I will then speak for all women, what they really want. And of course, I will cover Gabriel's Inferno, part 2. And then you're going to have to wait. And then part 3, I'm going to do that one too. There's some big twists coming. Big twists, big turns, shit you didn't see coming, massive. The most vanilla shit you've ever seen.
You're so drunk. Let's go to bed. Come on. Oh. Ugh. Ugh. Oh my god, no.
Bitch.
No.
You're my bitch.
No.
Bitch. Like, comment, and subscribe. Write in the comments, what's the best brand of cooking wine? I don't know if I tried the appropriate cooking wines. Holland House, there's the red, here's the white. I'm going to try the white on camera. Is this good? 10% alcohol cooking wine. Oof. It's so salty. Why is cooking wine salty? That was a surprise. I didn't see that coming. Not your front. Get your back. There you go. Okay. Pepper's got her head on his butt. Oh, this is good stuff right here. I'm gonna just shout out some titles. You tell me which of these titles is the best. 50 Shades of Musk. Elon's dirty sister. Elon's sister made a porno. Elon Musk's sister runs a porn empire.
Listen, you little slut.
Fried with some butter or even on a barbecue, the one that's got the taste you can't hide. Mushroom, the taste for all season.
You're a virgin, aren't you?
Well, we can't because of Pillow Pants.
The fuck's Pillow Pants?
Pillow Pants is her pussy troll? Duh.